Hi everybody, my name is Taylor D. Adams. I am a storyteller, filmmaker, and podcaster. And back in 2017, I had the honor and privilege of producing Wolfpack Hustle, a documentary series about NC State men's basketball. And in an effort to hopefully inspire and educate other people who want to tell real life stories and to reflect on how far I've come, I've decided to do director's commentaries on these episodes. If you've seen the director's commentaries I've done on One with Wolfpack Football, that's the documentary series I made on NC State football, then this is basically it, but about men's basketball. If you happen to enjoy what you see, please feel free to share it with friends and family and whoever you think might find this interesting. Anyway, enough of my blabbering. I hope you enjoy the episode. Thanks. Welcome, everybody. We are switching gears, and now we are in basketball season. So, there's Kevin Keats, head coach of NC State. So, we had a little bit of a unique opportunity here because with our previous show, One with Wolfpack Football, was about Coach Doring and the NC State football program. But I had known Coach Doring for years before that and done his like the talk show version of his show for Coach Keats. This was the first thing I made for him. Like, we didn't know each other. I hadn't worked with him previously at all. So it's a very brand new relationship between the two of us, as well as I'm brand new to most of the staff as well too. And because everybody's new, I wanted to take an opportunity to introduce this staff, this team, to viewers and fans. So we start out with like the base stuff, like, who are you? Like, what are you about? And that's kind of a given when you're approaching something for the first time, but it was a unique experience for me because I hadn't done that before, like with like a head coach, like getting to know them for the first time. So this was really cool, a really cool opportunity. And one of the things that, like with One with Wolfpack Football, that show was created around the mentality of the program, themes of the program. With Wolfpack Hustle, the idea of it, the theme, the name, the look, the feel had to come from an inspired place, and not like a lofty inspired place. I need you to be informed of what Coach Keats is all about, what he wants his program to be about. And so I had a quick meeting with him in pre-production about like what his team is about, like what are the values that they have both on and off the court, like what's a work-related mentality, if you will, that he wants his players to come away with. And one of the things that he really stressed was they wanted to play really fast, and they wanted to play really hard, and they wanted to play really tough, and they wanted to apply toughness and dedication to off-the-court stuff as well. So I thought about Wolfpack Hustle. Mainly focusing on the hustle part. That's something that can apply to both things on and off the court. And I think it really worked. And from an aesthetic perspective, you'll notice that we've got, the intro has some kind of like glitchy effects. We've got some speed ramps. Things look a little glitchy or grungy. And I wanted to kind of meld documentary with more of like social media effect trends. Highlight tapes of the time, mixtapes of the time had these effects on them that were very jittery and like I said, glitchy, and very dynamic in the effects arena. And so I wanted to apply that to a documentary setting. I feel like that might be kind of cool. So that's what I thought of about like what this show was going to be. And as you'll see, we've kind of evolved. We evolved the theme throughout the 3 seasons. The look and the feel of the show as well. Aesthetically, we changed some things. So, yeah, you'll notice stuff. So here we have Leonard Freeman, redshirt senior. I've been working with Leonard since he was a freshman. And so it's kind of cool to go from covering him just from like a highlights perspective to actually sitting down in an interview and talking with him. That was really neat.
I thought it was cool to have a rod in my leg or whatever.
So I felt like to start off the season with some kind of senior leadership was important because we have brand new staff, but we still have players on the team that have been there, that are experienced. And so to take our opportunity for a first episode, for the pilot episode, if you will, to show both sides of the coin, if you will, I felt was important. Especially with Leonard coming off a really intense surgery, about basically putting rods in his legs. So, and he's a good guy too. He's glad to sit down and talk. So I feel like our lighting is better. Our lighting has gotten better in the interview setting from the football show, from One with Wolfpack Football. So Coach Keats, we filmed in his office, one camera shoot. Sometimes, especially in the first year, there wasn't as much like kind of like set decoration as we might have wanted, because he just hadn't been there long. That just happens. So we wanted to try and contrast that with something a little more visually interesting. And so the team room, which is where Leonard is right now, had that. It's kind of a cool setting. There's like two really long benches, almost kind of an auditorium seating with some eye-catching stuff in the background, chrome lettering, logos, textures. So trying to find things that we're trying to play around with some stuff because we had done things one way with the football show, and now we're doing basketball. So things have to be different, but it still has to fit the school because it is the same school. It just happens to be two different programs. So some of the B-roll I'm actually using for this interview is stuff that I shot years prior. As well as some broadcast footage from the last time the Wolfpack made the NCAA tournament. So both a challenging and a time-saving aspect to the show is that sometimes you have two games inside of a week as opposed to one with football. So it can be kind of taxing to cover two games in a week, but granted, the games are shorter than football. There's less involved. The days aren't as long, but you still have to go through all the footage. You have to edit everything. And if you have two games inside of one episode, it can kind of help you out with the rest of the content within the episode. So if we've got two games and both games are really good games and we win, probably going to rely not heavily on them, but I'm not afraid to show the game. If we have games where NC State just doesn't play well at all and loses by whatever margin, from a fan standpoint, we don't necessarily want to see that. So we need to show that the game happens. We need to show the struggles. We need to show adjustments. We need to show reality. But if we've got two games, we don't necessarily have to worry about showing a lot from one of the games. We can work with some other stuff. So that's kind of cool. So we got the first game of the show season against Penn State here. But it's not the first game of the season. The tough part about basketball is that men's basketball, when the season starts, I'm still working on football. And my job at the time was to make a football show and then make a basketball show. So I can't make two shows at once. That's almost nearly impossible. And also, these shows have airtime. They have time slots on network TV. So they can't take up the same spot either. So what we try to do is the first episode of the basketball show of Wolfpack Hustle We kind of have like a text update that says what the team has been doing so far. Usually the team has played for an entire month before we even see an episode of the show. Normally my obligation is to make football shows up until the end of November, and then I switch to basketball. There's some wiggle room by about a week here and there, but for the most part, that's how it rolls.
You got to get out in transition. The pace and tempo is what you want.
So with halftime locker room footage, it's a little bit different. It's a lot different than football. There's not 100 plus people in one room. It's only like 20 or so. And I have a lot more freedom I have a lot more like freedom of movement, but also I can't really move too much in one space. Like I have the freedom to do so, but from what I need to cover and the fact that I am working with this program, this particular coaching staff and Coach Keats for the first time, trying not to step on too many toes. So kind of keep to myself. I stay on the side. I'm not really up in too many people's faces. I typically kind of have the same angle every time I'm in there. Circumstances do depend, but this is the first episode. And so I want to make sure to do my job with the least amount of invasiveness if I can, to show this staff what this show is supposed to be without feeling like I am a burden or I'm getting in the way of certain things. And overall, throughout the 3 seasons, it really worked. The staff began to appreciate what the show was going to be, and they allowed me more access as time went on. And that was really cool, like to see. I mean, obviously you always want all of the access. You want that stuff, but to see the progression of trust from hesitancy to full embrace is a really cool process. And that is what I experienced making Wolfpack Hustle, was that gradual gaining of trust. And it was just really cool to feel that I was being trusted to tell a really good story. Makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside. So it's just cool. And that happens to anybody that kind of works in documentaries. Like, the trust relationship can change. Sometimes it goes downhill. Like, if the people you're covering, the people you're in charge of telling their story, like, they might not feel you're doing the right thing, then trust might wane. But overall, you want trust to increase, because that's how you tell the best story, in my opinion, when you're trying to make something that is in support of a group or individual or cause.
I can't thank y'all enough for checking out this episode of Director's Commentary. If you are enjoying what you are watching and you want to help support some of the stuff that I'm making, I would deeply, deeply be humbled if you considered becoming a patron. You can check out the Patreon link in the description below. Becoming a patron comes with all kinds of cool perks, and it helps me make more stuff, both in quality and in quantity, and it really would just mean the world to me. Okay. Please resume watching.
Very proud of you guys. You did a hell of a job.
So that's the first game. First game is over, and that is our second segment. So we're going to head into our third segment, and we've got another game to cover. And so it's like, how do we do that? Like, what kinds of stuff are we including in an episode that has 2 games? So we usually mic up Coach Keats once a week. We typically have at least one interview with a player or support staff member once a week, if there is 2 games. If there's 1 game, we lean a little bit more heavily on the interview stuff. So we might have 2 interviews or 3 or another mic'd up segment or something like that. So it's all about filling for that time.
Remember, practice
So, yeah.
the way you want to play. Practice the way you want to play. But we got a ways to go. You got to get there.
So we normally practices are held in it's the Dale basketball facility, which is the men's basketball offices. There's a gym attached to it. For some games, we will play in PNC Arena, and that's because that's where
we play. That's where the team plays. It's always beneficial to practice in the arena they actually play in. But sometimes it's tough from a scheduling standpoint because the NC Arena is off campus. It is a shared arena with the NHL's Carolina Hurricanes. So, yeah, take what you can get. And sometimes we practice in Reynolds Coliseum, which is the old home of our men's basketball team, current home of women's basketball and like gymnastics and volleyball and wrestling and all that.
And certainly after I did that, I had the itch a little bit to coach. And
so looking back at this footage, so you'll see there in Coach Keats' office, not a whole lot going on there. I mean, the guy just got there. He'll been there a couple months. As we go on, this stuff starts to populate his desk a little bit, items and color and all kinds of stuff. So.
Go! Screen him. Oh, good job. You don't want to open the middle up. The middle is what we don't want to open up. So let's say cut right.
So a lot of times we have an opportunity with basketball, I feel like, to show more basketball things, like plays and strategies and stuff like that. Mainly because the focus of this show is narrowed down to just a smaller group of individuals. And so I don't have to, like for football, I don't have to be trying to cover two separate fields of offense and defense. For basketball, I'm just covering one court. And that's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to make a really good I think a really good show because you're limited. And as I said before, kind of limitation breeds creativity. And so to limit the focus to a physically smaller group, like it's one court. It's not two football fields. And it's fewer people. It's a smaller team than a football team is. So it's a lot easier. I do, and because of that, I do find that I end up the coverage of basketball ends up being a little more intimate because I do get to know everybody around the team, players and staff included. With football, it's tougher because there's so many people that are a part of the program.
We got to get off to a great start. Okay, we cannot spot teams 11-0. Okay, so you guys, whatever you got to do when you leave out of here, you got to be ready to go when that ball is tipped. You got to be ready.
So one of the things about this first season is that I'm using a particular camera. I'm using a Panasonic GH4. I believe I mentioned it before on One Wolfpack Football, but it's not that great in low light. So I try to do what I could, but a lot of times if lighting is just out of your control, a lot of things look too dark. And if you try to brighten it up in post-production, a lot of times it can just look washed out or grainy. So that's just the camera I had to work with. We do get a better camera for low light as the seasons go on, but this is just what we're dealing with. So coming up in this game is something that I've never covered before, and I'm hopeful that I never have to cover again. And you'll know it when you see it. But one of the cool things that we tried to do with this episode was we mic'd up Coach Keach, which we hadn't really done. I hadn't really done before, like during the game. For football, it's some rule against having coaches mic'd up during a game because there's so many other frequencies of transmission, wireless audio and stuff like that. I don't know the technicalities or the legalese behind it, but one of the things we're allowed to do with basketball is do that. And so that's really cool. So my idea was to mic Coach Keats up for every game, or at least a member of the coaching staff for every game. And so I was really excited about it. I obviously a little bit nervous too, because I don't know Coach Keats that well and he doesn't know me that well. And so there is that level of here's that consideration of trust. Like, what does he trust me enough to use the right clips,
And am I comfortable enough going up to him and talking to him about what I need? And with the first week of the show, I was very nervous because everybody's new to each other. So here we go.
NC State leading South Carolina State early, and there has been a major medical issue in front of the South Carolina State bench.
So this was, like I said, something I hope I never have to cover again. I'm sitting on the baseline closest to South Carolina Upstate's bench, and I just see this player fall from his seat onto the ground. And it's not looking good, and people on the bench are visibly concerned, and understandably freaking out a little bit. And as you saw with that text, a player had collapsed. He did get he did take an ambulance to a local hospital. He ended up being fine, thank God. But it was a scary moment, and the fact too that I had Coach Keats mic'd up, and my job is I still have to do my job, and so I'm kind of covering what's happening. I filmed this kid fall down, and in my head I know I'm most likely not going to use this footage because it's of a sensitive nature, both from a ethical and a legal standpoint, from like a HIPAA violation kind of thing. But so I'm like, okay, I'll film Coach Keats. He's mic'd up. And Coach Keats goes over to the opposing bench and is checking up on the situation. And I'm listening to everything, and I'm hearing someone from the opposing bench like audibly upset. I don't remember the exact wording, but it's just the sound of it is still in my head about how concerned they were. And at that point, I decided to stop filming. I felt it wasn't right. And then also, but I'm still listening to Coach Keats, and I think Coach Keats turns around at one point and does see me and realizes that he is mic'd up, and comes over and just kind of like hands me the microphone. And before he even gets to me, in my head, I'm like, yeah, you understandably take this mic off. Like, I understand that. So yeah, it was a really trying moment. Because it's so freaky, man. Like, life is short. Like I said, thank God the kid ended up being all right, but to witness that, and for that to be my first episode of this show, man, I was hoping that wasn't an omen. Jesus Christ. It was so tough, man. So crazy. I'm just glad everyone ended up all right. And so from there, like, how do I end an episode when something that dramatic happens in a game and it really puts things into perspective? And so here in the end here, I kind of skip over the game from there, show that State won. I have some final bits from Leonard. I have some final bits from Coach Keats, but I was like, let's just try to keep it positive. We'll show just some highlights from the game without context. Handshakes, positive feelings from messaging, from music, from visuals, because it really needed to balance out, because I'm not trying to make a downer of a show. Even as much as I am covering reality, like, I have to be truthful. I also have to keep in mind what the purpose of the show is. And so that was a really big lesson for me to learn in my first ever basketball documentary series episode. So yeah.
Thank y'all so much for watching today. If you have any comments or questions about what you saw, please feel free to leave them in the comments section, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. If you enjoy these videos and you want to stay up to date on other directors' commentaries or other videos I do put out, go ahead and hit subscribe, as well as ringing the bell so you get a notification every time I do make something new. And if you want to further support the stuff that I'm making, I would be so humbled if you considered becoming a patron. Becoming a patron comes with all kinds of cool perks, even outside of directors' commentaries. Yeah, but that's about it. Thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.